I am very proud to announce and share with you the product of months of very hard work by our mortgage fraud strike force. That is work that will bring justice to many homeowners in California who were targeted by predators who happen to have a law license, at least as of today. This is work that was done in a collaborative way, in particular with the State Bar of California. You will hear from them, but it is work that reflects a real issue that is impacting certainly the country, but is impacting California in a major way. You all will recall that in May of this year, we announced the formation of the Mortgage Fraud Strike Force in the California Attorney General's office. We combined some of the best and brightest lawyers in this office from the consumer fraud, corporate fraud, and criminal divisions. Also assigned to that strike force are special agents, law enforcement officials, who have been doing work over the course of these last several months of talking with Californians, talking with homeowners, listening to their stories, reaching out and letting them know there's a place where they can go and a place where they will be heard in a way that will give them a voice and protection. So this work has been done, and we have many cases that we are working on, but this case is the first that we are prepared to announce. It is also a reflection of the fact that estimates tell us that last year alone, there were approximately 2.2 million California homes that are underwater. So when we look at the magnitude of this issue, we know that it is great. The law, in particular Business and Professions Code 17200, gives me, as the California Attorney General, the power and the right to initiate independent actions on behalf of the people of California, and in particular on behalf of consumers in California, to ensure that they will not fall prey and victim to bad and unfair business practices. And it is under that jurisdiction and authority that we have brought the suit that we are announcing today. Essentially what we did is yesterday we broke up what we believe is a fraud ring that is national in scope. It involves, and this lawsuit involves, 3 law firms, 4 lawyers, and 14 other defendants. Assets have been frozen. There is an injunction that has been issued, and this is just the beginning of holding these wrongdoers accountable. The ringleader is a lawyer by the name of Philip Kramer, with the law firm of Kramer and Kaslow. Essentially, what they were doing is they were engaged in what is called a mass joinder scam. So a mass joinder lawsuit essentially allows the lawyer to pull in many, many plaintiffs and represent them in terms of a specific cause of action. But it is not a class action lawsuit, which is a very different type of suit. A class action lawsuit essentially treats all the plaintiffs and victims as the same, having the same experience. A mass joinder lawsuit is different in that it is brought with an understanding that each of the plaintiffs has their own set of facts that would have to be litigated. So it's actually an incredibly complex suit when brought, and for that reason difficult to prove. Essentially what happened is that we have an individual and lawyers who are reaching out to homeowners. We suspect because of the public records that are available of who owns a home. And they were reaching out to them by letter first and then telephone call, suggesting that they could help those homeowners get out of the foreclosure process. And they would do that if that homeowner would give them anywhere from $4,000 to $10,000. By the way, this is a service that often it can be had for free. HUD is very helpful in that regard, and you'll hear more about that. And essentially what they did is they had a mill of individuals who are not lawyers talking with these homeowners by phone for minutes, not in person, and suggesting to them that they would receive help and that there would be accountability by the banks for what have been unfair practices. They essentially took advantage of what we know is a growing sentiment out there, which is a lot of homeowners, hardworking people, people who believe in the American dream, have been deeply disappointed. And they are resentful, and they are angry, and they are hurt. And so when these non-lawyers reached out to these homeowners, they suggested that this would be the way that they could receive justice. They suggested that by joining this lawsuit, the banks would have to pay. But the only people who paid were those homeowners who were victimized for the second time. So essentially what we have is, and we believe the evidence will prove in court, that there were 2 million pieces of mail that were sent to homeowners in at least 17 states, including Nevada, Arizona, and Florida. And thousands of these homeowners paid what we believe are millions of dollars to these defendants that we have charged. The victims were promised relief in the form of protection from an imminent foreclosure. They were promised that they may receive interest rates as low as 2%. They were told that they may receive monetary damages, and they were told that it was likely that they would receive a principal reduction or elimination altogether. What we know is that after paying this money, these homeowners then, of course, believed that they had legal representation and would call their lawyer to ask, how's my case coming along? And those calls went unreturned. It's a sad irony that the fraud artist in this case is a lawyer who took an oath to represent people and to be their voice, and instead, under the guise of protecting them from fraud, he was committing fraud against them. The actions and the causes of action that we have brought in this lawsuit includes false advertisement under Section 17500 of the Business and Professions Code. It includes allegations of unfair, fraudulent, and unlawful business practices, a violation of Section 17200 of the Business and Professions Code. It includes allegations of running and capping in violation of Section 6152, Subdivision A of the Business and Professions Code, which essentially is a lawyer unlawfully paying a non-lawyer to solicit or procure business. We have also alleged improper fee splitting, in that the defendants unlawfully split legal fees with non-attorneys. And we have alleged that they have failed to register with the Department of Justice as a telephonic seller. So this case not only impacts California, but clearly has national implications. At least 16 other states have potential victims. I was actually on the phone yesterday with colleague attorneys general in those states to talk about the work that they are doing there and the work that we can do to support their efforts as it relates to their homeowners. What we know as attorneys is that this is and was designed to be a noble profession, a profession that is about helping people in need. And instead, what we find is that we had lawyers out there in California who were preying on victims and profiting from that. This also involves what we believe is a very immense and broad issue as it relates to mortgage fraud. As you know, when we created our Mortgage Fraud Strike Force, we designed it around every experience that the homeowner has in connection with homeownership. We designed it in a way that would deal with everything from origination to modification, with an understanding that at every juncture and at every phase of that process, there was conduct that may have been illegal as it relates to the information and the representations made to homeowners. We are very proud to have been working extensively over the course of these months with the State Bar. I want to recognize Joe Dunn, who is here for his leadership, a great lawyer who also has been a public servant and understands the power and the importance of making sure that we highlight the best of our profession and make sure that there will be consequence for those who abuse the power we have. And I want to also recognize, of course, State Bar President Bill Hebert, who is now going to speak to you about the work that they did in this case. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Attorney General. The State Bar of California has a primary purpose, and that is protection of the public. The State Bar regulates and has the power to discipline lawyers who violate that trust that the Attorney General just mentioned. This is a shocking case of how lawyers violated that trust. The State Bar has been extremely pleased about the collaboration with the Attorney General's office, with HUD, past collaboration with the Department of Real Estate, as well as the Federal Trade Commission. And this really is a group effort where we have been able to bring together and bring to bear the resources of these agencies. At the State Bar, we have an Office of Chief Trial Counsel, and within that office, we investigate complaints and discipline attorneys who stray. Within that office, we have created, since 2009, a loan modification task force, and since 2009, we have disciplined, and that is either disbarred or we have gotten to resign with charges pending 20 lawyers who've been involved in loan modification frauds and scams. The principal people here who've been in charge of this task force are Sue Anderson, one of the attorneys in our office, and Tom Layton, an investigator. And it really is to these people in our office that deserve the thanks and the appreciation, if any, is really to be deserved. So thank you. The last thing I want to say is the message to lawyers out there is that if you think you can take advantage of clients, you can't. This is a bar, California State Bar, a new bar, and this is an example of the new aggressive stance that we're taking against lawyers and that you're going to see in the months and years to come. Thank you.
And next I want to introduce Wayne Bell. He is with the Department of Real Estate and the Chief Counsel there and has been an incredible partner in this effort.
Thank you very much, Attorney General Harris. First, I want to say I'm very pleased and pleased and honored to be here with the Attorney General as well as representatives of the FTC, HUD, the State Bar, and they're all collaborative partners with us in the fight to expose and to combat real estate fraud. The Attorney General and her superb team, including my friends Francis Grunder and Ben Deal, should be applauded for their efforts in their vigorous and aggressive prosecution of this mortgage relief assistance fraud case. California has been hit and inundated by foreclosure fraud. And there's a tidal wave. We have thousands of cases in our department. There are cases that HUD has, the FTC has them. We're working together as vigorously as we can to take on those cases. The state's Department of Real Estate is the principal real estate licensing, regulatory, and enforcement agency. And we have seen these cases from 2008 on. We've been involved in efforts to prevent the fraud, and the AG's office is doing a yeoman's job right now, a great job in getting the word out. And I know the representative of HUD will be talking with you later about the websites, the consumer alerts that are out there for the consuming public, because they need to know that the fraud continues and we need to combat it, and prevention is one of the key tools that we need to focus on. The deceit that we're seeing comes from a variety of sources, and there are a variety of flavors, and there's no shortage of ingenuity or creativity by the scammers. But in most cases, the fraudsters prey on California homeowners who are in foreclosure, they're in danger of foreclosure or on the road to foreclosure, and those who are underwater with regard to their mortgages and they're unable to refinance or to find a loan modification. Added to that, they are focusing on and preying on those folks who are desperate, vulnerable, scared, and or unsophisticated in the area of real estate finance. The scam artists and cons who promise to help the homeowners and borrowers in distress typically lure their victims with bold promises and guarantees and collect monies up front, and oftentimes those are the last monies that the homeowners have. And then they do little or nothing or simply pocket the monies that have been paid. This robs the homeowners of precious assets and makes a very bad situation even worse. Such fraud destroys lives, families, and can devastate entire communities. It's heartless, it's insidious, and it's shameful. When lawyers and those working with them as lead generators and marketers join the ranks of those and lure and take advantage of the vulnerable and desperate, it is disgraceful. Lawyers are supposed to help people. As the Attorney General mentioned before, all of us who are lawyers, we take an oath. It's an honorable profession. And when lawyers participate in the fraud, it's an outrage. Excuse me. Real justice demands that those of us in the public sector work together, since it is only through a collective, concerted, and coordinated effort that we can provide the remedies and results that are necessary to protect the public. This effort is even more critical since there are a lot more swindlers and cons than there are government investigators and lawyers. Because of the crush of fraud, and in too many instances, the overwhelming burden that fraud imposes on those of us who are trying to fight it, prosecutors are not able to take action immediately, and sometimes not until long after the damage has occurred. The actions taken this week by the Attorney General and her team, along with the California State Bar, are what is necessary. It is standing up, it is standing tall, getting out in front of the fraud. It is a substantial proactive effort, which will hopefully serve both, one, as an alert to homeowners, and two, as a strong deterrent against similar bad action in the future. And in that regard, I think what we want to say here, I know I want to say this and my department wants to say this, we're looking for fraud. We're going to find it so that those of you who are out there committing fraud against people, the unsuspecting homeowners of California, we're going to find it, we're going to share it with the criminal prosecutors, and we're going to do what we can to take you out. And we are pleased and very, very pleased and honored to work with the Attorney General in this collaborative effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. And we also have here Ophelia Bascal, and she is the HUD Regional Coordinator. And I again want to thank HUD for all the work they continue to do to protect homeowners in California.
Thank you. Well, let me begin by thanking the Attorney General on behalf of the Department of Housing and Urban Development and the other partners who are here today for championing this effort to eradicate this fraud. HUD is also very concerned about mortgage fraud and the scams of preying on American households. We have been vigorously promoting our program called Know It, Avoid It, Report It. It's a program designed to educate mortgage consumers to be wiser and to report these con artists to the authorities. And HUD's Office of Inspector General is also supporting the Attorney General's task force in the work that it's doing to deal with this important law enforcement issue. The words that we want to send out to the mortgage consumers out there is to be wary of any person or company that asks for a fee in advance, like what was described here, guarantees you that they can get your loan modified, tells you to stop paying your mortgage and pay them instead, pressures you to sign paperwork that you don't understand or haven't had time to read, claims that they're offering government-approved or official loan modifications, or asks you to release your financial information online or over the phone. We know that many of these unscrupulous companies focus on vulnerable homeowners. In particular, we're seeing a focus on seniors and also ethnic minorities. I want to stress that the importance and a key principle of the Know It, Avoid It, Report It program is that individuals who are affected by this make a point of reporting to their local authorities. If they want to report to the HUD Office of Inspector General, the website is www.hudoig.gov/hotline. And if you know and report a scam, not only can you help yourself, but you can help others who may be in a similar situation. And with the proper knowledge and awareness, we can stop these con artists in their tracks. So for those mortgage homeowner or people out there with mortgage problems, we're saying report any suspicious activity immediately. Don't become a victim. If you have missed a mortgage payment, don't wait to get help. Talk to a HUD-approved counselor today. These are trusted experts who will sit down and help you work through the best course of action for your specific situation. They can also provide foreclosure advice. And one of the most key things about this, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything to use one of the HUD-approved counselors. The number to reach them is call 1-888-995-HOPE, H-O-P-E. And that's the homeowners HOPE hotline, where they can speak to an individual about their circumstances and be referred to someone locally where they can make an appointment and go over their paperwork, their situation, and explore what the options are from modification to other sorts of activities that may be available for them. HUD also has a website that you can visit for more information. It is www.hud.gov/preventloanscams. And then the Department of Real Estate also has a website, which is www.dre.ca.gov, where people can also learn more about these scams and other information about mortgages. So we look forward to the continued work with all of us and success in eradicating this serious problem. Thank you.
Okay. So as you've heard, there is a lot of work that is being done to protect these homeowners, and truly we know in particular that up to 50% of the homeowners in California that have been impacted by this crisis are Hispanic and Latino, even though they are about only 20% of the homeowners in California. So when we look at the various communities that deserve and need representation, that is a real and important point. I do want to also recognize, before we close the comments, James Toma, who has been leading this effort, along with Ben Deal, of course, and under the leadership of Francis Grunder. They've been doing outstanding work in this office, and I thank them.